Hello, everyone. Dr. Stillman here, and today I am back for another episode of our light therapy course. Today we are talking about light therapy and weight loss. So, for starters, I want to actually zoom out on this whole topic and unpack the term weight loss because it is one of my least favorite terms in the history of the world. Why? The idea that weight loss is good is not really fair. Why? If I were to remove your gallbladder or your appendix surgically, you would have lost weight, but would you have gained health? Here's what people really usually mean when they say, I want to lose weight. What they mean is, I want to gain muscle mass and bone mass while losing fat mass. And that's actually really, really important. Why is that so important? Many people get wedded to the idea that they should be a certain weight. That weight is usually what they weighed when they were young, 18, 17, 16, 25, 30. The reality is that may not be a healthy weight for where they are in life. So before we tackle, I want to lose weight, we need to ask, where should your weight be? And leaving, because that question gets really complicated, to be completely honest with you. We really want to focus on where should your health be? Because what I see a lot of people in the weight loss world doing is losing the battle for their wellness and winning the battle for their weight loss. What I mean by that is they resort to all kinds of fancy tricks and shiny objects and gimmicks. Some of them drugs, some of them supplements, some of them biohacks, weight loss programs, whatever. And they actually do more harm than good. And this comes back to the real fundamental physiology behind weight loss, which is really simple. If you gain muscle mass and you create more mitochondria per unit muscle mass, so you don't necessarily have to bulk up, you can just make your muscle more powerful and more efficient. When you increase the mitochondrial density and absolute number within your muscles, you're increasing your ability to generate energy. You're increasing the amount of energy that you're going to be burning per unit time, and then you're going to be able to eat more and not gain weight. And regardless of how much you actually end up eating, you will actually end up losing weight, by which I mean converting fat into CO2 and water, which is actually what you do when you lose a pound of fat. Most people don't realize that in order to lose a pound of fat, you actually have to breathe it out as CO2 and water, although the water can obviously be lost in other ways as well. So that's the number one thing I want people to actually know about light and weight loss, is that you got to start with it, getting your head wrapped around what healthy weight loss looks like. So another way of putting that is that really the name of the game when it comes to losing weight is not to focus on the scale. It's actually to focus on, how do I increase the size of my metabolic engine? By which I mean the amount of muscle tissue and mitochondria within that tissue that you have burning fuel around the clock. This is like saying, for example, you want to burn a pound of fat. Okay, well, let's say that that's like burning a gallon of gasoline. Well, are you going to burn that gallon of gasoline faster in a giant truck, or are you going to burn it faster in a hybrid gasoline electric vehicle? Well, right, it's going to be burnt up faster in the truck. So if you really want to lose fat mass and have strong muscles and bones, the name of the game is to build your muscles. What do muscles run on? Kathleen, I'm going to go ahead and invite you on screen. Are you there?
Hey.
Hello.
Oh boy.
No worries. How are you?
Great.
So I was just chatting about how the name of the game when it comes to losing weight is actually building your mitochondria in your muscles, which will then burn fuel, converting eventually fat to CO2 and water. So how are you, Kathleen?
Great.
Excellent. Good.
Besides having, I guess, the wrong link. So I was backstage waiting for you somewhere else.
Oh, that's so funny. Well, here we are.
Here we are.
So, okay, mitochondria, weight loss, muscles. Mitochondria, for those of you who don't know, are the powerhouses of the cell. They are what generate energy. They burn fuel and turn it into CO2 and water. That means the more mitochondria you have running at faster and faster efficiencies, the better and better your metabolism is going to be, the more you're going to be able to eat what you want and not gain weight, or lose weight if you want to lose weight. And quite frankly, I see people doing the calorie in, calorie out thing all the time, or using like hormones and all these drugs and supplements and whatever to force their bodies to lose weight. This is a losing game, because what they usually end up doing is wrecking their mitochondria in their muscle mass, and then they destroy their muscle mass, and then they end up with no muscle mass, and now they really can't lose weight. So all of that is really important background before we even get into light therapy and weight loss. And on that note, let's talk about light and weight loss. So not many people realize that light actually controls a lot of mammalian metabolism. And the reason is very simple. Light in the environment is your body's single best indicator of how much energy is available in the environment. By which I mean, if it's really bright and sunny, there's going to be a lot of food in the environment for you to eat. So it makes sense for you to be awake and active and full of energy. Now, when sunlight goes away, it gets cold and dark. And what do all the animals in nature do? They hibernate. They get tired and lethargic, and they go into a cold, dark place that they warm with their own body heat, and they sleep for months on end. And then at the end of that, they come out when the sun begins to come back to the environment, and they then emerge from hibernation and they get on with life. Humans are not right. Humans are not actually that different. We're not seasonally breeding mammals like bears or elk or whatever, but we do actually have these natural cycles. If you examine the lives of people in cold, dark places, Minnesota, Canada, Alaska, Maine,
Idaho.
Yeah, Idaho, they would go into sort of a rest state in the winter. They might do some hunting, they would do some fishing, but generally speaking, they'd foraged and harvested their food and their firewood in the summer, and now they were going to consume it over the course of the winter. So that is really how light controlled their societies for generations. Now, what have we ended up doing in our modern world? We've created artificial light. Artificial light has allowed us to run around the clock all day in, day out, one season after another. And this is why if you look at the incidence of things like diabetes and obesity, what you'll see is that how do I put this? When you look at the literature on diabetes and obesity, they actually get better with sun exposure. So the sun actually improves your metabolism. And that's kind of the number one thing about the number one most powerful link between light and metabolism. Is the more sun you get, generally speaking, the better your metabolism is going to be. Now, we need to talk about how fake indoor light really derails this. There's no red and infrared light to keep your mitochondria healthy. Usually the indoor lighting environment is very dim, and that dimness, that lack of light, is actually not sufficient to keep your brain really engaged. What I mean by this is, and this is what we call seasonal affective disorder, but I think it's much more pervasive than that. I don't think seasonal affective disorder nearly covers it. When you're in a dim environment, it doesn't stimulate your hormones and neurotransmitters the same way. We found through the work of Fritz Hallwich back in the 1940s and 50s in Germany that if you got more light in your eye, you would actually have higher levels of hormones and neurotransmitters in your urine. And in those experiments, he showed this over and over again. So it stands to reason that you're going to actually have more metabolic activity, more hormones, more neurotransmitters when you get more bright light in the eye and on your skin. And the fact that we've moved indoors and away from the sun has, as we've done that, it's coincided with the rise of our modern problems with people being overweight, obese, and diabetic, which is not the same as being obese or overweight, but is very, very similar in terms of how it gets started and how it affects people. So bottom line here, you need natural light in order to have optimal metabolism. And moving indoors and away from the sun has really deprived people of light, red and infrared in particular, that optimizes their mitochondrial function. And that's a setup then for them gaining weight. And that's not even just talk about artificial light at night, which we'll get to in a minute. Kathleen, anything you want to add to that?
Yeah, I love all of that. It's, especially when you go through the normal mammalian, this is what we do in the cold time, we do this, in the warm summer months, we do that. And then you start and like, yeah, that all makes sense until you start thinking about what we do. And we don't go outside in the summer because it's hot. So we turn our air conditioning on. And we don't go outside in the winter because it's cold and we have our heater on. And we're not seeing the sunlight. We're not getting anything in our eyes anymore. And if we do go outside, we have sunglasses or contacts or glasses on. All of that's stopping that light signal from telling our hormones what time it is, what they should be doing. And it's just wreaking havoc on us. And that's why I've had friends who are maybe even a generation younger than me, and they're looking at, old hippie videos, and they're going, what I noticed uh, in the rock festivals, Woodstock, there's not one fat person.
Right.
Guess why?
Yeah. And what's interesting about that is that a lot of the changes to our diets, processed foods, fake food, a lot of that took place
at the same time.
At the same time, and before, well, it's interesting, a lot of the worst changes to processed foods happened before the rise of modern indoor lighting, LED, CFL indoor lighting, and the full migration indoors. And it all ties into as well the overuse of screens after dark, which we have to talk about as well. So when blue and green light hit your eye and your skin after dark, it tells your brain and your body that it's daytime and that you should be awake and alert. And this is why all the social media giants, all the major apps, all the phones, they have a bright white screen as their background naturally, as well as a lot of blue colors. There are a lot of psychological effects of these colors, but one of the primary psychological effects is to keep people awake. And people have noticed, and you'll notice this if you try it, if you turn on an old-fashioned incandescent light that's not very bright, it's very warm, it's got not a lot of blue and green light, but a lot of red and infrared light. If you turn that on and you read before bed, you'll fall asleep relatively quickly. Now, if you are scrolling through your phone, it'll keep you awake for hours. This is not a coincidence. The phone is keeping you awake, and that's by design because they're monetizing essentially your attention.
That's right.
So what you're seeing there is the ability of green and blue light to keep your mind engaged and your brain on. And that is actually having an effect on hormones and neurotransmitters and metabolism. This is why you'll see this very strong link between sleep and optimal metabolism and optimal weight or healthier metabolism, healthier body composition, more muscle mass, less fat mass, higher bone density. What is happening there is that as the blue and green light inundates our bodies at night, what we're seeing is that melatonin, circadian rhythms, sleep is disrupted, and then people's metabolisms go off the rails. And this is why people will tell me in my practice, I started to go outside 3 times a day and get natural light in my eye, and all of a sudden I'm noticing that I'm losing weight. And I stopped scrolling on my phone late at night, and I started wearing blue blockers, and all of a sudden I'm no longer having hot flashes, or I'm not craving as much food, or not eating as much food. And the weight loss often follows from there. So the biggest thing overall for light and weight is to understand that you need a naturalistic lighting environment to be healthy and to have an optimal metabolism. And if you don't have that, you're likely to always struggle with these issues. And that's part of why we're doing this series.
And that blue light is so addictive, and it you feel like it's giving you energy, when in fact what our bodies really need, and our mitochondria especially, is that red and infrared to give us energy in our mitochondria that then can do a host of things. One being give us energy so one, we can exercise and process the fat. And the blue light, it just gets us almost like hypnotized.
It does, and
It's
it keeps
different than the
people
energy from red light. Excuse me.
sedentary.
Yes.
It really slows people down.
Yes.
So let's talk a little bit about different light therapies for weight loss. So red and infrared light from any number of different devices can have very profound effects on metabolism. I see this all the time. I'm not going to say it doesn't matter which device you pick. I've just seen it happen with a wide range of them. There's a number of different reasons for this. So number one, we've talked about this a lot. The frequencies of red and infrared light will tune mitochondria so they're more efficient. That then results in more energy being burned and the cell having more energy and you feeling better. And often this causes or creates a cascade of events. People have more energy. They make more thoughtful choices of what to eat. They make it to the gym more often. They're more physically active. They're more proactive about going to bed earlier. All kinds of things happen when people have more energy just intrinsically. So there's all those things that happen with red and infrared light. When they're using something like sauna, which is a type of light therapy, there's also going to be an elimination of toxins from the body in sweat. That's very well documented and very well known. That's part of why sauna is so profoundly or so strongly associated with longevity and vitality overall, and part of why I just love sauna for practically any kind of problem people come to me with. And then the other thing that will happen is as people use red and infrared light therapy, they'll often report that their sleep is better and better and better. And that is because as they're getting more red and infrared light, they're increasing their melatonin levels, and this increases or improves their sleep quality and duration. Once they're getting deeper into sleep, then they're going to see that their metabolism gets better. This is why Jim, who works with us at my medical practice and at Still and Wellness, people would often come to him and say, well, I'm trying to go to the gym early in the morning. And he would say, well, I would rather you get an extra hour of sleep than spend an extra hour at the gym. And they would be surprised by that because they thought the thing that was going to get them results was spending time at the gym. But oftentimes it's actually the rest and recovery that is most important and impactful. So that's the nuts and bolts of red and infrared light for weight loss. I see it all the time. These things really help people with their metabolism. Visible light, red, green, blue, orange. The visible light, and particularly the blues and greens, keep people awake. Where these will wreck people's metabolism if it's done at night. People need darkness at night. And so when you get rid of blue and green light using various different things, you can use screen filters on devices. You can just turn devices off. You want to be using low blue light bulbs. You want to be using things like blue blockers. These things I see having a profound effect on people's sleep quality, their recovery, their energy levels. All kinds of different things get better when you get rid of blue and green light at night. And then when you are bringing in bright light during the day, people will feel more energy. They may have a better mood. There's a reason people really love sunlight, and it's because it has powerful positive effects on the brain and the body as a whole, many of which are reflected in the body's metabolism and therefore then weight loss. UV light is the last component I'll mention. It's very well known that the sun has powerful effects on metabolism. Some of these are mediated by the UV light found in sunlight, UVA and UVB. I'm not going to get deep into how UVA and UVB affect metabolism, but suffice it to say that when people get full spectrum sunlight, it has a positive effect on their metabolism. I think that's very well demonstrated in the literature. And some of this has to do with vitamin D, and some of it doesn't. But at the end of the day, we see a very strong correlation in the literature that the more sun you get, the lower your overall risk of death. And part of this is the effects of UV light on the human body. And yes, there's problems with things like skin cancer. I talk a lot more about that in other videos that we currently have. We just recorded one in the Optimal Wellness membership for Stillman Wellness. But bottom line here is that when you get red and infrared light back into the body and you control artificial light at night, you see some pretty profound effects on people's metabolism, which is why light therapy is one of the things I use for weight loss every single time. If we don't fix someone's light, I'm not counting on us fixing their metabolism.
Yeah, it's kind of the our operating system, that it was meant to be. And if we don't go back to that, it's hard to fix anything.
Yeah, exactly. Which is why when people come to me and they're not
Yeah.
getting results with weight loss, I always go back to what's your light environment like, and frequently there's something really out of alignment, and then we can add some light therapy in somewhere to get them some results.
I love the fact that you and Jim have asked people, when you first start with them, get outside even 10 minutes 3 times a day. And people are like, oh yeah, but the people who do it, it's life changing. 10 minutes 3 times a day. That's 30 minutes of your day.
I know. It's
It's
nothing.
not a big deal. And it's so monumental. And I have shared that with as many people as that will listen to me. And it's such a simple thing. And blocking that blue light at night, just those things, it can turn so many things around.
It can.
And
Absolutely.
you can't believe it. You just like, well, come on, 10-minute walk. I'm telling you, if you'll try it, you'll know why they say that. It's
Yeah,
really a
absolutely.
big deal.
Jill asks a great question. Uh, what are your thoughts on sunglasses? So sunglasses do block the amount of sunlight hitting the eye. And so I will get people telling me that when they lose their sunglasses, or stop using them, I should say, they see a big improvement in how they feel and their energy levels, and sometimes their sleep. So I generally only use sunglasses in extremely bright environments where you need to protect your eyes from the sun. And that's a longer story, honestly. So Kathleen, any other?
Frozen water and melted water out on the lake, on the ski hill.
Yeah, that's basically right. Yeah.
Those are good places for them. Other than that, just plug in again the Quantum Biology Collective podcast. Dr. Valerie Gian GR did a series, and if you really, Jill, are interested in sunglasses and all things of light in the eye, she did a spectacular podcast interview. I think it was just the one or two back. Dr. Valerie Gian GR, she's an optometrist, and she's has married the quantum biology with optometry, and boy, she gives some really good information. I would highly recommend that.
Absolutely. Great. Annie asks another good question, which is 3 times a day outside. Does it matter if all three are in the afternoon or early evening? So I do like to see these across the day. So early morning, sometime between dawn and say 10 a.m., and then middle of the day, and then late in the day. Kathleen, someone's asking for Valerie's name. I think
Valerie Gian GR, which is GIAGRANDE.
All right. You had it. There you go. All right, everyone. Thanks for joining us. Take care. Have a great day.
Thank you.